Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My sincere apologies for being here late. My name is Idonije and I work as a research officer. Excuse me. Thank you. I'm good. I work as a research officer with the Policy Innovation Center, and I'd like to welcome you to this panel session. But just before we begin, I'd like to present a few slides to introduce you to the session. Okay. So this session is titled New Voices, Stronger Communities, Shifting Norms to End Child, Early, and Forced Marriage. Next slide, please. So this session is based on the Nigeria Survey on Adolescent Health and Well-being, which is a project being carried out across 14 states in Nigeria, including the FCT. This project is supposed to assess marriage in Nigeria. And it has been found out that despite the Child Rights Act and national gender policy banning child marriage in Nigeria, in some states up to 44% of girls are still married off before they are 18. And findings from our stakeholder dialogues across 14 states showed us that poverty, family honor, dowry traditions, and silence from community gatekeepers continue to keep this practice alive. And we also found out that this is so because 95% of families and community and religious leaders are the ones who guide these marriage decisions. Next slide, please. Some of the barriers and gaps that were also found in this study showed that there are structural barriers, there are community barriers, there are social norms barriers, as well as policy barriers. Some of these policy barriers include what we mentioned, that there are legislations against child marriage. However, there are gaps in implementation and frameworks. Besides that, some of the structural barriers include lack of education and lack of information for adolescent girls regarding their sexual and reproductive health and rights. And this is why girls continue to make poor decisions regarding their health. In addition to this, we also found social norms gaps in regards to, there are social norms regarding how girls' worth is tied to marriage and childbearing. And when girls get pregnant out of wedlock, marriage is seen as, thank you very much. Oops. Thank you so much. So when girls get pregnant out of wedlock, one of the ways out of this so-called shame is to get them married off early. Besides this, when girls drop out of school, they are advised, in quotes, to get married. And these are some of the social norms that continue to reinforce child, early, and forced marriage. In addition to this, I mentioned that parents rarely discuss sexual and reproductive health and rights with girls. And as a result of this, they lack the right information to help guide their decisions. Next slide, please. In addition to this, there are few adolescent-focused outreach initiatives. There's a scarcity of safe spaces, shelters, and support services for girls who are resisting forced marriage. Next slide, please. And so in this session, in this panel session, we are going to explore how to rewrite harmful narratives and reshape what families see as acceptable. We are going to tackle the real economic and cultural drivers that fuel child marriage. We're also going to monitor the progress, hold communities accountable, and protect every girl's right to learn, grow, and thrive. In addition to this, our expert panelists are going to lay the groundwork for practical next steps to ensure that this practice is driven out slowly but surely in our communities. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to the moderator.
Thank you. So thank you for being here with us. My name is Maryam Haruna. I'm a program advisor with Policy Innovation Center. So I'm happy to be moderating this critical conversation on how we can end child early and forced marriage by shifting norms that reinforces this problem. I think without wasting much of our time, I will go ahead and invite our panelists that will be having this conversation with us here. Okay, let me just go ahead and invite the panelists. So without following any particular order, I'll start with calling Dr. Amina Hanga. She's the Executive Director of Wali Empowerment Initiative, a champion for women's and girls' rights and empowerment in communities, Kano, and other parts of northern Nigeria. So please let's give her a warm welcome as she goes to the stage. Next, I'll invite Miss Joan-Anne Jummai. She is the Special Assistant on Women Affairs at the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. She is going to bring us the national perspective to this conversation. Please, Joan-Anne. So we also have Professor Michael Kunnuji joining us. He's a professor at the University of Lagos who has contributed a lot with data-driven analysis and insight into what works and what doesn't when we talk about gender norms and changing or shifting harmful norms to end child early and forced marriage. Professor Michael, is he here with us? Okay, so I'll go ahead and invite Victoria Bello. She's the Deputy Director of the Center for Girls Education, who has extensive experience in education solutions and also into girl education programming. So, yes, all right, thank you. Let's continue to, okay. All right, so we invite them as they join us. So, but before they do, we can just go ahead and start the conversation. I learned that the conversation might be shorter than we anticipated. So maybe I'll just go ahead into some of the questions I have for you. So I'll start with you, Dr. Amina. I know I'm from the north. I'm from Kano specifically, and I know how prevalent this issue of child early and forced marriage is in our communities. So I know you do a lot of work on women empowerment, girls empowerment through education, justice, as well as other form of things you do in your community or various communities you have worked on. So I would like you to share from your experience what forms of inequity or vulnerability fuels or make some girls more vulnerable, more at risk of early marriage, more than others.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to make a quick clarification. I'm not doctor.
Okay.
Maybe one day.
All right. We hope so.
Yes. Right. So girls face a lot of, I think sometimes I feel like just being female already puts us at a disadvantage. And for us in where we work in the north, Kano and other states, what we see is there's patriarchy that contributes to this. So girls, women are seen as not, as being, I don't want to say second class, but sometimes really that's how it feels like. And that it is not, one is poverty and economic insecurities that affect girls' access to education and thereby pushing them towards child early or forced marriage. And this is because parents, especially when they're poor or from the rural poor areas or urban poor areas, so these are all parts of what girls face or women face, then they do not want to waste money. They feel like, what's the point of educating a girl child when she can just get married? So she's more or less kept at home to do the household chores, more or less grooming her for marriage. And as soon as a suitable suitor comes, she's sent off. So preference is placed on the boys to get married, to get an education, because they feel that they're the ones that are going to support families. But we all know that girls, we are all women here, we're educated, we know what happens. No matter where we go, our mind is always back with our parents, with our siblings, with our family members. We're always looking at how we can support. So imagine if we were educated and had our own means of financial means to really do support like that. There's also the issue of, like I just mentioned, gender and social norms, where communities look at girls in more of mothers, wives. They're to work, they're to have children, they're to be married, have children. Like, that's the only role. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's more to it than just being a mother, than just being a wife. And when they don't have an education, they be married off early. Earlier today, we've been hearing about malnutrition, stunting. These are all parts of it, because when they don't have that education, when they don't have their own means of taking care of the family, and especially when we can see what is happening in terms of poverty is increasing because of the high cost of living, inflation just keeps going up. So these women are now left, and men are running away from the families, leaving the women behind to look after the children. And most often as not, what we see is that where these women are poor, they tend to have a lot of children. So this burden of caring for many children without financial means creates other issues around. We see them on the streets, they're begging. We see girls that are hawking, putting them at risk now of getting sexually violated and other forms of gender-based violence. So we can see that all of these things creates more problems. And if these girls that are married off early and the husbands abandon them or they're divorced, they come home for the same reason that they were sent out to get married, which is to reduce the number of mouths that they're feeding. They now come back home, and if they're not lucky, they're coming back with additional mouths to feed. Because when the husband tosses her out, it's together with the children.
All right, thank you so much for this insight. I think there are two or more things, insights you have given us from just your point right now. You have mentioned issue of poverty as a driver for early or forced marriage in Nigeria, as well as discrimination. There is an element of preference of the educating or investing in their male children more than the female children, because they are mostly considered mothers, or just go and get married and give birth to children. And this, you have also mentioned some of the consequences. This issue of child marriage kind of produce other problems that we see today, and we need to shift the norm to ensure that it has come to an end. So and I think I can resonate with some of the points she has made, and you can see from the statistics presented earlier, 44% of girls are being married before the age of 18 in some of the states. And I think it's really, although statistics might not be real covering every sector or every state, but I believe in this because I know I've worked with girls at primary school, and I can see how they are being forced into child marriage. So, Victoria, looking at these statistics, looking at these issues she has just mentioned, how do you think we can translate data and policy into actionable strategies that will reach girls and families, because they are the direct victims in this issue we are talking about?
Okay, thank you very much, Maryam, for your question. Data is very important. Data is very critical to the work that we do. Yesterday, in one of the sessions talked about data and how we need to get locally grounded data to sort of amplify the work that we do. So I would say data policy, they're very critical. They are very key in this discourse of child early and forced marriage. First of all, it amplifies the issues. It gives like a sense of perspective on how deep or how deep-rooted these issues are. Again, data, amplifies the challenges, the voices of girls who are, as we say, the victims of child early and forced marriage. It represents their voices, their perspectives. It tells us a lot more than we can imagine. With data, with the right kind of data, we can begin to make inferences and deductions and learn about what we can do to support some of these girls. Data also tells us what direction our interventions should take in terms of the evidence that we have. So for example, data can tell us, we're tackling social norms, for example. We can begin to look or talk about how we want to change narratives around child early and forced marriage. We can begin to look at how we want to engage parents, community members, religious and traditional leaders who are themselves custodians and people who influence these social norms that perpetuate child early and forced marriage. Data can also tell us a lot about how our policies around tackling, child early and forced marriage is doing. Is our policies working? Do we need to do more? Do we need to review our policies? Do we need to reassess or reevaluate the implementation of these policies? In terms of policy, again, on the ground for these girls, when we hear their voices in this data, it tells us a lot about what they want or how they perceive our interventions of policies, how they perceive what we provide for them as alternatives, to help them stay and remain in school.
All right, thank you so much for this point. I think you really point out some critical things that I noted down. You said that it gives us the skill an image of how prevalent a problem could be, especially since we are talking about child early and forced marriage. It also guides us into knowing the right direction to go with our implementations, and also help us in monitoring and tracking and evaluating the interventions we are doing, whether we're making impact, whether we need to make changes, or maybe we need to even re-strategize. Thank you so much for this point, and I will go back to, sorry, Ms. I was used to doctor, I'm sorry about that. Okay. I was in just a session that ended a while ago, and there was one brilliant child. I think her name is Progress. I think the session is about shifting or centering girls in the future through power and policy. She made an important point. She said that if we replace education with child marriage in Nigeria, that means we are losing our doctors, we are losing engineers, we are losing doctors. Like she mentioned a lot of things, and this is what is really happening. We can see that, we know that. So I just want you to tell us what community-led innovations do you think can help change these narratives? For instance, maybe championing women groups, is it youth groups? What do you think can we do to help delay child marriage and promote girls' education in Nigeria? Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I understand.
Okay.
This is a great. One of the things that we do and is safe spaces. We call them safe spaces for girls, where they come together. It's a place where they can learn foundational literacy, they can learn life skills, and all of this builds confidence. They learn also about gender-based violence, the importance of education, and this helps the girls to see that education is important. Now, if a girl mother has not been educated, it means that she herself, the mother, is not really giving her that support. And the girl grows up thinking, a lot of times now what we are seeing is that girls peer pressure, their friends are getting married, and all the lovely things that go with the wedding, the clothes she's given, the wedding celebrations, all of those things, and they too, they want to marry. But through safe spaces, they start to see that there's an alternative, not an alternative, but there's also another way that they will still get married later, but they will gain skills, they will get an education, and so this is one way. But we also know that working with girls, you don't work with them in silos. In the community, their family, their extended family, community members, they all play a role in the life of a girl. And if these girls, we don't work with these...
I'm so sorry for cutting you. Actually, they are putting pressure on me. I wouldn't want this session to end now. And I'm sorry, Victoria, for not taking your second response. I have a number of questions for you, but then we have to go back to the audience or participants, rather, with your permission, so that we can take some few questions before we round up. I hope that is okay. All right. So please, in a minute, maybe we'll take 1, 2, 3 questions, and we can come back to the panelists for their responses.
Thank you. My name is Rhoda Isakala, and I work with Young Leaders Network in 𝗣脾𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 State. So on one of our projects, Strengthening Advocacy for Girl Child Education, we're trying to establish Adolescent Girls Club in schools, and we wrote a letter to the Ministry of Education saying that, oh, this is the aim of our project, to reduce child marriage, advance leadership, advocacy skills in girls, and all of that. And I took the letter to school service, and when he called me, he told me that he would not approve my letter. I will have to go and correct the use of early marriage. And we know that early, forced, and child marriage is they are different, right? So he said the only thing they accept is forced marriage. So I will have to go and correct that. And we were working on the gender in education policy, getting a customized one now for 𝗣脾𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 State, and the same issue came up. And we all know that these things are different things. So I don't know what can be done, what Policy Innovation Center can actually do, because the system of getting data will fail, because if we are to use just forced marriage, then where can you get the data for child marriage and the rest? So I don't know what role they can actually play in places like 𝗣脾𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 State and others to address this issue. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I think, Joan-Anne is here from the Ministry of Women Affairs, and I think it's only fair if we can have maybe some points from her as well before we go back to the audience. Please forgive me. Okay, please, Joan-Anne, please, if you can come up to the stage, please let's welcome her as she comes up. Thank you, ma'am. We missed you, actually. We wanted to hear from you, and we are glad that you are here. So we are short of time, but I want you to give us, from a policy lens, how is the ministry framing child early and forced marriage in their interventions in the national agenda?
Thank you very much. Let me quickly apologize, because the time coincided with another thing I had to do in the office, so I dashed out and I'm back. I apologize for keeping you all waiting. It's not in my character. And so at the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, you do know that we're trying to redefine the space under the leadership of Her Excellency, Honorable Imam Suleiman Ibrahim, FSI, who came into office in October. And since then, we've been working with our development partners to clean up the space. You do know that we have 36 states that have domesticated the Child Rights Act. And domestication took a long time because at the time the Child Rights Act was passed, it was 2003. So you can see the timing it took. So when I listened to you saying you went to, is it 𝗣脾𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 State Ministry? And it took a while, and then they were tossing you here and there. We can't force them. All the minister will do for such cases is high-level advocacy. Because we operate a federation. We have 36 states. So whatever we do at the national is for us to advocate to the states to be able to also come on board. And you can see what happens at the state level is that based on the realities on ground, they do not want to offend some sensibilities, but definitely where it violates the right of the child, then the ministry has to step in. Because at the end of the day, it's the rights of the child that we're talking about, and every child is a Nigerian child. So in the month of May, we had the End Violence Against Children Summit with African countries, and you know that Nigeria is the first Pathfinder country. And so we hosted 15 other African countries where we presented a costed action on violence against children. So we're doing a lot around the space, and the issue of early and forced marriages, like I said, it takes a lot. We need to continue to engage with the traditional institutions who are the community gatekeepers. We need to engage with the non-governmental organizations. We need to also engage with the spouses of governors. That's why our work also, rubs off on them. So there is a kind of model that Nigeria is trying to put out there so that everybody comes on board. Because definitely government alone cannot do it. If we say government alone can do it, with how many million children that we have in Nigeria, it's impossible. So we do crave the indulgence of everyone to come on board. But if you're working at the state level, please try to work closely with the Ministry of Women Affairs, because they should be able to give you proper information. If you go to Ministry of Education, you may not get what you want. Because the way we work with the Ministries of Women Affairs in terms of capacity building and all of that, they understand the language in the space. The Commissioner of Education may not understand, but we work with them because the child is a holistic person. The ministry is the custodian of the child because it's Ministries of Women Affairs. But when it comes to education of the child, there is a ministry that is working around that. So what we are preaching is that keep children in school from at least by the time the child attains about 17 years, 18 years, at least, no matter what, the child is old enough. But the child who is still in JS3, and you go and marry that child off, then you are committing a crime. And then we know that the Child Rights Act is superior in any case.
Thank you, Ma'am. Thank you so much. I don't know, I was carried away. You have gotten her question. The first person that asked question, I'm referring to. Okay, yeah, okay, that's fine. Maybe we can take. Okay.
I would just also say that talking about child marriage in the North is a very sensitive issue. And that we need to be, so when you're looking to do anything around that, is not to come out so clearly that this is what you're trying to do. You're already going to hit an obstacle. Because from the religious point of view, there's already that misconception. And if you use that, they're going to use that against you. So it's better to take another angle. You know what you want to achieve, but avoid talking about child marriage. Forced marriage is a different thing because it's being forced, but that child marriage is going to be for you an issue. And even at when you're working with the ministries, it's the same people that are in the community that are in the ministries, and they're not going to rock the boat to go to the rock and get the religious leaders against them, or even the traditional, but especially the religious leaders. So you have to find another way to work with them. And what we have found, which is answering your original question quickly, is that when you work with the community and ask them, what are those issues that when you marry or when girls are facing, if you really sit and just have this discussion with them, they bring it out themselves, saying that when we marry them off young, when they're coming back to us divorcees or with all sorts of problems, they're bringing additional children home and stuff. So the community comes up with the issue, and then you can now start to look at, okay, so what can we do about this? So working with the community, very important, with the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, and working with youth advocates. These are people that come from the community. Don't bring somebody from outside to come and say he's a youth advocate. Let them be from within the community. They're the ones, because they're known, they can speak about these issues, because I'm part of the community. I talk about it.
Okay, Mom, I know you have a lot to say. I just want to be fair to the participants. Let's take just 2 questions, and then, okay, let me select randomly. One over here. This lady, please, if you can take. Okay, and then the second person. That's the questions we are taking. Please, where's the second mic? Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is 𝗣ส์𝗲𝗶𝘀𝗁. I work with people-oriented development of 𝗣ehqua, a faith-based organization. My question is to you, Ma. We see that a lot of... Ma? So, a lot of us see SOs that work with communities, especially working with girl, child, and trying to advocate the reduction of early marriage and forced marriage, basically. We realize that sometimes when we go to the local government, because we believe that they're supposed to have a lot of input, we find out that there are no institutions that help support that. Now, we now find it hard because most times when it comes to probably agriculture or putting other inputs, you find out that people easily go there to have answers and support. They can lead you. But when it comes to sensitive issues like that, we do not have offices for that or even to help. Now, how do you intend to step down from the federal down to the community level so they can assist us? Because reaching you is harder. Even in the states, that's why we have local government. It is hard. How then do you come into play for us?
So let's take the second question now.
I don't understand the institutions, but I'll just tell you how the structure is. At the federal, you know, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs at the subnational levels were a creation of the Beijing Platform for Action. And what was it? It was an affirmative action to get commissioners at that level, women into governance, and at the federal, a federal minister at that level. At the state level, it's a bit complex because all the women's structures are in the ministries of local government. Do you understand? So the extension workers in those areas are the ones who are trained that go to those state levels. You have the women development centers. Some of them are not functional, but you have women development officers in those local government areas whom you are supposed to interact with. If you begin your interaction with the State Ministry of Women Affairs, they will tell you where to go. But what we see most times is that people come into the states and they don't even look at who the community gatekeepers are. So you move away from them, you go and deal with other people, the people who are the custodians of the issues around there. Then you've already failed even before you started. And so that is what is happening. So if you start from the State Ministry of Women Affairs, and I want to appeal to most of our brothers and sisters who are eager to interact with us at the federal level, there is a system. The federal level is such that you must be working in at least 12 states, geopolitical zones, before you come to the federal. So if you're working at maybe the state of Benue or state of Cross River, please interact with the Commissioner of Women Affairs. Where the problem becomes bigger and it violates the child or violates the girl child, that's when the federal government with the federal might will step in. Please just let me make this clarification. You recall the issue in Rivers State where there was this ritual cleansing for children? Because it violated the Child Rights Act, and all the states have domesticated. When you domesticate, it means that you have consented that the federal law is more superior. And don't forget that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria supersedes every other thing. So if you violate that, you violate the rights of the child. So this is where you should begin to understand the way the system works. So if you do that, you'll not have any issue. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The last question,
good afternoon, everybody. My name is 𝗣WHO𝗲𝗶𝘀𝗀, and I'm a gender-based violence advocate. My question is for the Federal Minister of Women Affairs, actually. As a gender-based violence advocate, I'm asking, how can we key in as volunteers, advocates, to bring an end to this, let me say gender-based violence, because that is what I worked more on. How do we key in as volunteers, advocates, to reach to these local girls? Because as you people are at the federal level, you cannot reach the local girls like we are in the community can. That is my question.
Okay, ma'am, please, in 1 minute, if you can respond to that.
So I think you can tell me, as a volunteer, how do you intend to work with us? Because I've explained the working structure. If you're working in Kano State, you can't jump the Commissioner of Women Affairs to come to the ministry. Whatever data you have to share it with the Commissioner for Women Affairs. And when she profiles it and is sure that whatever you're doing is genuine, she will pass it up. And don't forget, everything is localized. Every problem is localized because the girls who are violated belong to communities. And so whatever data you have to share, if you share it with the commissioner, because we do quarterly collation of GBV data from the commissioners. So the commissioners will have told us, so number of cases were reported, so number of cases were tried, so number of cases are still pending, and so number of cases are closed. In that way, you are working with them as a volunteer. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Please, let's clap for our panelists, and I will just take a minute to get your final words on this. Just one minute for each. And that's all.
Okay, before my final word, I would just like to respond to the lady from 𝗣𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 State. When you're working with ministry, you talked about sending in your letter and all of that. For me, I think that you would have had maybe a one-on-one meeting before you send in that letter. In that meeting, you're clearly going to be stating what your program is all about and what you intend to do. At that point, you'll be able to assess if the commissioner or the director is comfortable with the use of the word early marriage or child marriage. And then if you sense that, you can also put it to him to ask him what appropriate wording do you think that we can use so that your work can pass. You know that you're trying to address the issues of early marriage, child marriage, but for him, so that you pass that systemic barrier, what wording would he like you to use? I would also like to say that it is very important that you know that you cannot work, for this particular issue, you cannot work in isolation. You need the ministry, you need the directors, you need people from the local government to support your work, in fact, to champion your work. And how do you do that? Sometimes you may need to have maybe workshops or meetings, just engagements with them to bring them up to speed in terms of, your intervention or your program. Get them to understand what you're doing and let you get their buy-in. Once you get their buy-in, I think it will be easy for you to walk through the ministry structures. For my last word, I would just like to say that To break the circle of poverty, girls' education is the investment that will do that for us. You know, when a girl is educated, she is more likely to live a healthier life. She is more likely to have healthier children. She's more likely to get her own children educated, and then the circle continues. And for us who are implementers, you know, in this regard, we need to move, you know, into action. For people in government, we need to move beyond policy. We need to move into action. In fact, beyond action, maybe urgent action, because the numbers, you know, the data that we have is 44% of girls getting married before the age of 18. The issue is critical. I think Nigeria ranks, I think, 3rd in the world in terms of early marriage. So we need more quick action, urgent action to address this particular issue. Thank you.
All right, congratulations. They just mentioned that we have some more minutes to continue with our conversation. Are we happy? All right, then, Dr. Amina, okay, sorry, please forgive me. I just want you to become a doctor. Please become a doctor. Yeah, you deserve it, please. Okay, you have started discussing some barriers earlier, but I want us to continue with that conversation. But then, please forgive me, before we get to you, I would like Mrs. Joan-Anne, to tell us, of course, Mrs. Amina started discussing about some cultural sensitivity that we need to be cautious of whenever we are doing some community engagement around child, early and forced marriage, especially in areas like Kano State and other northern parts of the country. So I want to know, in your engagement, how do you kind of navigate sensitive issues like religious misconception, the idea that girls should get married at early age, which the interpretation is wrong, but then it's something that has become the tradition happening, the practice in that communities. An issue of family honor. People think that they should give out their girls out for marriage because it protects their family dignity. Issue like bride price as well. So how do you go around shifting these norms, changing these behaviors among people at community level without provoking maybe resistance from the people in those communities?
Okay. Amina had said something very useful. Before you get into a community, it's very important for you to understand the terrain where you're going to. If you're going to going to a community, a Muslim community wearing trousers, you know there'll be a lot of resistance. Because in those communities, you keep hearing, especially in the far north, Biri the Wando, Mage the Hula. So it's already sets you, you know, I don't know how to interpret it, that would be sweet. You know what is Biri? Monkey, that monkey is wearing trousers, and then a cat is wearing a cap, you know? So you need to understand the terrain. You need to understand the language of their policies, because it's not the same. So for you to work in those communities, it's very important for you to understand how the norms, what the norms, the practices are. But in understanding the norms and the practices, it's also very important for you to work with the community gatekeepers. Because even here, before we came into this room, if you don't have a tag, you can't get in. The security out there will not allow you. So it's the same with the community. The rural community, we have Meungwa, right? Even in the south, we have the traditional rulers that before you go and work in their communities, you have to pay homage. So these are guardians and custodians of the norms and practices. But again, looking at the general scenario that we have now, we've had a lot of culture shifts, whether we like it or not. Okay. Because we're gradually seeing a situation where women have become like role models. I recall at the time Professor Rukaya was made Minister of Education, if many of you remember at that time, during the late Yaradua's reign. She was a woman veiled. And what was that about? She's from Jigawa. It sent a clear message that this is a woman who has gone to school. She is a professor. She has not discarded the culture of the people. Because the misconception was that when you send a girl child to school, she will not practice the culture, she will not practice the religion. So what we're doing is role modeling. If you find a woman who appeals, like Professor Okonjo-Iweala, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, Amina is representing us there. Who amongst our villagers or in our community gatekeepers will not want their daughters to be like that? Amina still wears her veil. She has not changed. She prays 5 times. So these are the kind of things we're talking about. We have to start looking for models. If you go to that community, understand the community. Even our minister, before she enters the community, she does what we call advocacy. Advocacy because she has the might to do anything, but she still realizes that there will be a lot of resistance. And once there's resistance, you've crushed it all. So where does she go? She will have to visit the traditional ruler. She will have to visit the custodians of the religion. She has to visit the women groups because you know the women groups, they are very fundamental. Keep them aside and you have lost it because they are the ones that they use to carry on all these negative vices. It's a mother who says, my daughter's friend got married and they brought so many things for her. Right. My own daughter too needs to go. So we need to begin to engage with those group of women, and that way we can continue to have this culture shift, and it works.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, I will go back to you, Hajia Amina. You were mentioning some barriers, some drivers as well. So I want you to give us the strongest among the ones you have seen, mostly reinforcing child marriage in Nigeria, or rather in the communities where you have worked. And then at the same time, while you are doing that, I want you, if you were to propose like a bold action that you can do, the communities can do to shift that norms, what could that be? So maybe in 2 minutes. Yes.
All right. So one of the strongest for me is education. And as long as we don't have quality education for girls, this is one of what brings about child marriage. Because if parents can see that their children at the end of primary, secondary school, in fact, the problem starts from primary. Okay, what's the point? They're finished, they're not literate, they can't write their names, they can't read or anything. So why are we wasting meager resources to continue to send them to school? So already that problem starts from there. So it's about also the ministries, the government, looking at how they can improve the educational quality of the school, making learning environments that are safe, and because insecurity is another thing that is preventing girls, making parents marry off their children, and also ensuring that in the schools, girls miss days of school for menstrual purposes. So if there's no water, there's no water and sanitation facilities, these girls are going to miss schools. So these are all the things that need to be put into place. Plus the fact that schools are overcrowded with teachers that really have not much qualifications. So all of these are barriers that prevent girls from going to school. And
a bold action?
A bold action, I would say, is we must focus on education, and we must work with the communities. They are the ones, from the parents to the state, the traditional leaders, the women groups, the youth groups, work with all of them. Let's also remember when entering the community that we should go in with humility. We're not going in there to tell them you're doing child marriage is wrong. Okay. The moment you do that, you put people up against you. Go in
I
there
think
wanting
that's
to
very
learn.
strong and powerful. Humility, it stands out to me actually. So I thank you so much, Amina and Victoria. Over to you. Like if you are to have a minute with the most influential members of a community, maybe the traditional and religious leaders, what would be your message to them to enable them become champion in shifting these harmful norms in our communities?
Okay, if I was to have like a minute with a traditional leader, I would be telling that leader that as a traditional leader, he's a custodian of culture. He is a great influence in his community, and whatever he says, whatever actions or commitments that he makes has the capacity to influence, people's beliefs, has the capacity to influence people's actions. And just by making a commitment, to support girls' education, he can influence and shape girls' future, and that alone can transform the society, that alone can transform the community where that traditional leader is from, and it can scale and expand, in no small measure. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Jane, in 1 minute, what will be your proposed solution to this problem, especially in relation to family themselves, shifting these norms in relation to family? What will be your solution, proposed solution rather?
So
in a minute, please. We are running out.
you empower the family. We must shift focus to the family because the family is the first unit. And that's why under the Renewed Hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which has found expression in the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs as the Renewed Hope Social Intervention Project, our attention is to the family, because when a family is empowered and has money, the family will not begin to look for how to marry off their daughters. So, education of the family, empowerment of the family, which we're doing under the WAVE project, under the clean cooking and so many other programs that the minister mentioned yesterday. An empowered family is a key to solving all the issues that we're talking about and shifting from norms. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. After all, poverty is one of the key drivers of child marriage. Please, let's give a round of applause to our panelists. I think they have really given us a lot of insight to how we can address this challenge of child marriage in our country as a whole. So please, I will indulge on your patience to spare some few minutes seated. We have some few more activities left. One among them is I would like to hear your thoughts on this session. Please, can we have it set here? I would want us to give our feedback on this session using any of the following options. So there are some papers going around. It contains a QR codes. Please scan them and give us your feedback. And then you can also use the digital screen in the foyer. I think there are being would I say shown on those screen out there. So please, if that is also not possible for you, we have the research assistant. You can use their tablet to scan the QR code and give your feedback. This will be really helpful as we are determined to shift these harmful norms that is affecting our community, because we women are at the vulnerable side of this issue, isn't it? So we indulge on your patience to do this with us. Kindly scan either, maybe from the papers going around and some of the screens that are out. Yeah. All right, and then I have another announcement today. Today is Madam Joan-Anne's birthday, and we have a cake for her. So please, let's sing for her. Let's celebrate her, because it has been a long journey. So please, we have a surprise for you, ma'am. So please, let's stand up, all of us, and sing for her as she cuts this cake. She's our celebrant for this session. Yeah. Okay, let me. Okay, but you photo. Okay, muka gama yankan cake din sai ayi hoto da Allah. Kun ji? Sorry. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Hey, what's up, guys? I found this beer left over from some campers, and I'm totally wasted.
Have you guys seen this vlogging Yeti online?
So we'll just give her 30 seconds to say thank you, and then we'll take
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So please, we have the next session with the Minister of Foreign Affairs right in the next room. So please, let's just go and join in while the panelists come and take the pictures. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, of course, the panelists will join you. Take your own picture, ma'am. Yes, please. Panelists come. Maryam, join in, please. Don't come, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am.
Now so everybody come in this world, With the advice you say, any work where you the work, make you put your mind there and work and find fun, make you know they talk like, make your yes be yes, ya no be no, then you go live well for this world,
reconvene to the main hall.